Hey everybody, I'm Jon Salemi. I am the owner of Resolution Racing Services Incorporated from Buffalo, New York. I've been into racing basically since I was old enough to walk. My older brother Jim, who is 17 years older than me, was racing from basically the time that I was born until present day now. So there's always been a race car either at my house growing up, or once that got too big to be at the house, I moved to a shop. So I've been around race cars my entire life. I would go with him to the racetrack every weekend. It's been embedded in my blood basically since I was 4, and a couple months ago I turned 51. So long time. It's one of my true passions in life. I don't have any plans on slowing down or relaxing at all. Even when I was a young kid, Jim always gave me jobs to do on the car, whether it be, changing spark plugs or putting air in the tires or whatever menial task that a young kid could do and perform well, and not jeopardize the performance of the car or winning rounds or anything like that, and also, staying safe. So that grew into more technical things. Like back then, we were tracking air and, atmospheric stuff like that, not to the point that we do today. I got into a lot of things that kind of led me into the path of being a tuner per se. And one of the biggest ones is when in the early days of Pro Mod in the late 80s and early 90s, Jim was running with his partner Mike Stawicki and the IHRA Tour. And neither of them were really savvy at doing anything with a computer. And since I was a younger one, I kind of grew up with it more. So I got into pulling all the data off of the race pack and, started to chart things. And, then with taking, tracking that stuff with atmospheric conditions and all that type of role on the team. And then I got into like, whoa, look at this trend. It did this on this run and it did that on that run. And collectively, the three of us would like kind of just throw it out there. And, that's kind of where the earliest stages of my tuning, and working with all those type of factors is really what started the footprint and the foundation of me being a tuner. I think I went on my first true paid tuning trip in 2005, so I would have been in my early 30s. I went to Bradenton Motorsports Park, believe it or not, and tuned on what they called a Pro Outlaw dragster back in the day. It was like a mandatory 871 in a dragster with a power glide, and I know back then they were running 380s and 390s, but that was my first paid tuning trip, and I'll never ever forget it because I was looking at the spark plugs after the last run that we made on the final qualifier, and I was doing some individual fuel flow nozzling in the manifold on this car, and there was a highly intoxicated fan that was walking up to the car, and he subsequently grabbed my spark plugs and dumped them on the ground, and that was the end of that evening. And I don't think I slept the entire night because I was worried that I was going to blow this guy's engine up, because what I needed to adjust was now laying on the floor, and nobody knew what cylinder, what spark plug went to, and anything like that. Long story short, it all worked out okay, but just a little funny side note. Resolution was born in 2010, actually. I worked for my brother at G-Force at the chassis shop all through my teenage years and through high school and through early amount of college that I was going to, but I was gone a lot because that was the height of my career in music. I was, touring a lot, and we were making albums, so as soon as that stuff would be done, I'd have a break. I'd always be back at the shop, or I'd always be going to the track, or whatever it took to keep everything going to the best of our ability. Basically, that started to end in about 2003-ish, 2004, and I was spending way more time at the shop, and to be quite honest with you, my brother and I were really clashing. So we needed some time apart to get, I guess at the end of the day, really our maturity level and grow up a little bit. So I went to work for 5 years for Darren Mayer at DMP Incorporated. Did a lot of great things with Darren. We did a lot of early developmental work in that company, and I built websites and, ended up becoming a sales guy, and then ended up going to the track doing consulting and tuning work under Darren's tutelage. And I got to the point where I just felt that I wanted to do it on my own. And in 2010, that's when Resolution was born. And, subsequently really came back to a way better situation between my brother and I, and then, of course, Mike Stewicki with MSR Performance. We kind of put those three companies together to make one brand, and that's still what we're doing to this day. It's those three companies fielding this fleet of cars in Pro Mod and some other classes too, but mainly in eighth mile, Pro Mod, and can't say that things haven't been great. I've never ever worked with a race car that had anything but a supercharger on it, a belt-driven supercharger, whether it be a Roots or a Screw. I've never worked on a car with a carburetor. I've never sprayed nitrous and anything. I've done a little bit of ProCharger stuff now, and a little bit of a very, very small stint with turbo stuff. We built the business around, supercharged methanol alcohol racing, and quite frankly, we have enough work to keep us more than busy. And that doesn't allow me to go and learn any other combinations because I'm so wrapped up in doing what we built the business around. And at the end of the day, I think to be great at something, you have to be super focused, and you can't be taken many different directions. You need the focal point, and this stuff has gotten so technical and so complicated that if you dilute it, you don't do as well. So I've set a focal point on, that being what we had the experience in doing, and just headstrong and kept it going that way. Well, yeah, technology plays the largest part in advancement of, I guess, anything in the world, really. It's gotten to the point in this Pro Mod deal now where, the systems on the car to control the car, to tune it, are pretty much the most important part of making a successful run, or, bid at a championship, or winning rounds and, winning races. So when we started, we had basically, you didn't make enough horsepower to need any type of management on the cars, and we did it with a clutch, and, we would change gear ratios. But man, we didn't, back in the day, we didn't move suspensions like we do now and have all this shock technology. Everything has grown along with it. The technology and the tools and the equipment that have come in the last 10 years has exponentially grown to the point where, these cars are almost a half a second faster than they used to be 10 years ago. When Melanie first drove, we were going 4.0s and 390s in Pro Boost in qualifying, and, a couple years later, we're going 380s, and then 3 years and we're going 360s, and now when the conditions are right, we're going 350s, right? That half a second over those 10 years is all equated to technology, both in, testing tools our engine dynos and hub dynos, and my wet flow bench, CNC capabilities with building parts that are more precise, and 3D modeling and all that type of stuff. It's all over the world, everywhere we speak. It's no difference of why shouldn't it be in drag racing and any other form of motorsports. It's all technology driven stuff. So, that stuff usually shows up in industry first and then kind of trickles down into the motorsports. It's a true test to technology, equipment, better data, analyzing more data channels. Things that we would never pay attention to 10 years ago now are the biggest things in, looking at a run and improving it, as well as, tire technology, more grip, traction compounds, tire rotators on track prep, and scraping of tracks, and the evolution of everything. When you really, if you could document it in outline form, that would be so super impressive to see. Okay, well, this came in, we saw, an increase in ET performance here, and well, that came in, and well, there are so many of them. Truly impressive when you stop for a second and think about it and talk about it. I've never driven anything substantial. I have been down the drag strip on a snowmobile, believe it or not, and I don't know, it drove all over the place. I had to get on and off the throttle, and I think it went 660 at 102 or something like that. And I've been down the racetrack and, street cars and stuff like that, but never really driven any real substantial sort of any type of race car at all. That's what to be honest with you, that's what I dreamt of doing as a kid. But when, music career kind of took over in my life for about, I don't know, 10 to 15 years, I kind of missed my calling on driving. And when I got back in, I was already kind of headed on that tuning path. So, and I'm completely fine with it. I'm not going to tell you that I wouldn't love to do a burnout and launch a car, but at the same point in time, if I enjoyed it that much, I don't want it to tamper with business and or, what I've set my life up to do now, which is, the tuning and consulting and all the part sales and all that kind of stuff. So my music career kind of starts with the same type of thing that started my racing career. My brother Joe, who is the middle brother of five of us, he was a drummer. Somehow, some way, he started playing drums when he was a kid. And just like a race car, there was always a drum set and there was always music going on in my house. My dad was a big jazz guy. And Jim and Joe really collected records, and they were into stereo systems, and all through that the 70s and 80s, music was a huge thing in my family. So I grew up with it, and I grew up listening to my brother play drums, and all of a sudden one day I went down there and I could play drums. And then I started taking drum lessons from the same guy that he did. That progressed into hooking up with dudes in high school that were also into music. And then I got really into the punk rock and metal scene. It was another really, really cool subculture, kind of like drag racing is, and had its own built-in fan base. Man, it was as cool as going to the races and getting chills and goosebumps when cars did burnouts, and I was watching them back up and I looked down at my hair on my arms and it's standing up. Music did the same thing for me. And then I started playing guitar, and we kind of took two local bands from our city in Buffalo and made them into one real band with all the people that really wanted to do it and get serious about it. And man, some way or another it took off, and we made 5 records and toured all over the world. And it's as great as doing what we've done in racing, playing music all over the world. And I have some of the dearest friends still in my life from the music scene, and once in a while still, I don't know, maybe 2 to 5 times a year, if the time is right and I'm actually home from racing, we get to play. And there's going to be a documentary coming out in 2026 about the legacy of Snapcase, and we're actually working on some new music to go along with that documentary release, and hoping that it all can come together and we could make some great music again and suit that need that we have, just like we all have the need for speed. All the guys in the band totally are they're into it and as passionate as we all are about doing our racing. The family aspect of our race car team is probably first and foremost of anything. It was all introduced to us as a family and by family. And really, even the people that have come in to our race team and supported us greatly, like Eddie Whalen from Alley Installations, and Katie Knight that comes and works on our car, I wouldn't really even call them anything but family now. It's the utmost importance, and to see what Jim and Mike started in the late 80s and early 80s even on a local level, and then as we grew through the 90s on a national level, running IHRA Pro Mod and stuff like that, to see it flourish into what it is now, to be able to have the lives that we lead from having race car type businesses is truly great. But it comes with, like anything at this level of commitment, it comes with a lot of sacrifice, a lot of trying and hard times, a lot of emotion, because everybody is really passionate about what they do. And when you put family in there, and especially an Italian-based family, sometimes it gets pretty out of control. The stories are long and endless about the battles that we've all had, and we're so close and tight-knit that sometimes we need a little break from each other. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't have it any other way. To be able to go home at the end of a day of work and talk to your wife about passion of racing and the passion of business, and raising a family the right way with my wife Melanie is probably the greatest thing of all of it. And then being able to see Evan flourish into a car chief and now tuner and everything else that he has accomplished. It's amazing, and you got nothing but the biggest satisfaction and the biggest smile for all angles of all of it, how the whole operation runs, how everybody is still striving to be as great as they can be day in and day out. From Jim and Mike and Eddie's involvement with our team is, I mean, he's brought us to a level where we definitely wouldn't have been able to get without his support. And now, of course, his friendship. And, you know, it's great when he's involved with our car because he's not day to day on the racing. And sometimes we're so into it and so absorbed in everything. And he's like, guys, what are you doing? Like, we need to do this. And he'll have this outsider's view. And we all just kind of look at each other like, duh, like, how could we not see that? So everybody's involvement is very key. And like, I think the biggest part of our whole team is, I had a saying kind of when we started it, and I don't know if it was really coined by anybody, but I always said, know your role and do it to your best of ability. And if you're not doing your role to your best ability, you have to be able to take the constructive criticism when somebody checks you about you not doing your role to your highest level. Top 3 favorite racetracks. So Galat Motorsports Park's got to be one of the top. Great facility. It's always kind of felt like a home away from home. For some reason, we just seem to do really well there. Most times we race there, so got to give the props to Galat for that. Norwalk, Summit Motorsports Park, the Bader family. Probably, I'd have to say, is my favorite racetrack to go to. And it goes real deep. Like, first time that I ever went to a national event back in the IHRA days, man, I had to be 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere in there. And I can still remember like leaving the house at like 4 in the morning because we had to be to Norwalk at 8 in the morning, and just like being so excited to go to the racetrack that I couldn't even ever go back to sleep in the old Suburban when we were towing there to run Jim's Roadster and what was then IHRA Top Sportsman, it was called. So not a true Top Sportsman like it is today with only door cars, but it was just a fast bracket class. So yeah, Norwalk holds a special place in my heart, and the Bader family has always been more than gracious to the Salemi family, and we consider them dear friends. I'll have to give it up to our hometown track that's 20 minutes from the house and the shop, Lancaster Dragway, which many people see driving down the 90 as they're leaving Buffalo or approaching Buffalo. It kind of spent every one of our summer Friday nights there. It still is a true 8th mile racetrack, but it spawned everybody from Jim Oddie and Fred Hahn to Mike Stewicki and Jon Salemi and Mike Janis and all these great racers that became, you know, nationally known racers from one little 8th mile in Buffalo, New York. It's an awesome place, and it bred excellence. And if it wasn't for Lancaster, we wouldn't really be in this sport and doing what we're doing, because it gave us the means to facilitate the passion for racing. And the competition back in the 80s there, they had a quick 8 show every Friday night, and I mean, it was as cutthroat almost as Pro Boost is these days. I love going to VMP. Tommy and Judy have, you know, put their heart and soul into that place and given us a great place to race. And pretty much all the racetracks on the PDRA Tour, and even all the stuff that comes on the NHRA Tour, and our home track, Empire Dragway, I mean, over the last 3 years, they've put millions of dollars into that so we could have, you know, legit pro mod races there and go high 350s and low 360s, even in, you know, our terrible barometer that's up there. But so thankful for all those places that we can come, and guys like myself can make a living and carry out our passions and, you know, be able to do it in front of fans and, you know, a great family and a great fan base. To get a hold of me, I do have a resolutionracing.com website, but it was funny because about 3 or 4 people went on my website this week even and said, oh, do you still have, and I'm like, I haven't touched my website in like 5 years. But there is resolutionracing.com, and then all the sources on social media, either through Resolution or personally at Resolution John on Instagram or Jon Salemi on Facebook. 716-860-4200. Full line of all things racing, parts-wise, flowed fuel systems for blown alcohol cars, through all the ranks, a full line of service work, whether it be engine building through MSR Performance, full-blown turnkey cars and updates and everything at G-Force Race Cars, Wired for Speed by Evan Salemi, they're G-Force race cars. Anything to facilitate anything pro mod, we can handle it.